So we've heard a lot regarding OLED iPad Pros and the benefits they could give us, but today we have a con of sorts with Apple making this upgrades, and that's going to be higher prices, so let's delve into it. So I guess I'm not surprised by this news, but the elect tells us that because these new OLED panels on future iPad Pros could use new techniques Apple and their suppliers have never produced, we could see price hikes. Specifically, the display is using a two-stack structure, which of course uses double the emission layers, which gives you 2 times the brightness and 4 times the longevity compared to the existing OLEDs we have on iPhones. But also remember, these will have LTPO tech and also a hybrid OLED structure because it should combine the best of both worlds. You get the rigidness of rigid OLEDs, but also the thinness of flexible panels. So yeah, this is going to result in pretty high prices. And to put things into perspective, a regular 10-inch OLED panel does cost around $100 to $150 to make, but these new 11-inch and 13-inch panels for the iPad Pro could be $270 and $350 respectively. So yeah, that's quite the markup for these panels, and obviously Apple's going to pass on the high cost to us, the consumers, with higher prices. And that gets me worried about the prices for these new iPads because the existing 11-inch is $800, so maybe the new OLED version could be $1,000 or maybe even higher than that, and we could see the bigger 13-inch get close to $1,500. And that is really going to be tough to justify for an iPad because these ultimately are still going to be quite restricted, and remember you have to buy keyboards and pencils separately for this, so by the time you get all of that, this could match the price of a 14-inch MacBook, in which case, just go for the MacBook instead. So I'm really hoping with these display upgrades, we do see upgrades to iPadOS and give it more macOS-like features, because that's the only way this price can be justified. Otherwise, I can't recommend this. Because however good the display is going to be with these OLED iPad Pros, there is no point having these fantastic panels if the software is going to be exactly the same. So yes, Apple should also give us software advancements alongside these hardware upgrades. Now for those wondering, Samsung and LG are going to produce these OLED panels, and there is actually talk that Samsung's developing a cheaper production line for OLED panels, and so maybe in the future the prices could come back down, but to be honest, that seems pretty unlikely. I think it's more likely Apple, of course, keeps the savings to themselves and increases their profit margins. And another worrying thing about these price hikes is that we could see the rest of the iPad range move up in price, because obviously we saw the base iPads get a major price increase last year, so there is a chance to further separate the lineup. The next iPad Air also sees a price increase alongside the iPad mini, and that would be a shame for the mid-range iPads, but hopefully that's not the case. And actually, we now have leaks from another Korean source regarding what exactly is going to be the pricing for these iPads, and it sounds ludicrous because they say it could be $1,500 for the 11-inch and $1,800 for the 13-inch, in which case, if this still has the basic iPadOS, why would you get this? Just get a MacBook Pro instead. So yeah, those prices are ridiculous. I'm hoping that's not the case, and if that is somehow the case, just stick to mini LED for these iPads. And by the way, for those wondering about the release for these iPads, it should be in 2024 since of course there is roughly an 18-month cycle for iPad refreshes, and so considering we saw the last refresh back in late 2022, we should see these OLED iPads in early 2024. Anyways, let's delve into your questions. So David Lazarus says, a large iPad with OLED would be great as a portable movie screen. I would use mine to stream sports or movies. Personally, I would prefer a good 11-inch iPad Pro with OLED instead. So yes, I can understand why you want a bigger iPad, and it would be nice to watch movies in bed with a 14-inch iPad, but if it's going to be super expensive, then I'm good, because I'm not spending $1,800 or $1,500 on OLED when the iPad's still going to be running the restricted iPadOS. If Apple could somehow give us a big screen regular iPad, maybe in the future that does not have all the bells and whistles and might not even have OLED, but just gives you that big screen experience at a lower price, I would be tempted. However, yes, I'm hoping that the 11-inch iPad Pro gets the OLED upgrade and it's not too expensive. I'm praying for the price to be around $900. So Big Dog says OLED looks great, but burn-in is still round. And yeah, that's a fair concern. Burn-in has of course been a big problem in the past. However, new OLEDs have fixed this for the most part. Also, Apple has software techniques within iOS that prevents things like burn-in, and to be honest, I've yet to hear anyone experience burn-in with their iPhones, and so I don't think this will be a massive issue for the iPads. And heck, do remember these iPads are going to be using dual stack displays, and so yes, do not worry about burn-in with these iPads. That's going to be a non-issue. So Ramesh regarding iPadOS becoming more like macOS says, I doubt this. Apple's going to keep macOS and iPadOS completely separate. And yes, I know ideally that's what Apple wants, but the iPad's in a pretty awkward situation because it has all this power, but of course, the software's not utilizing it, and so eventually the iPad and the Mac need to overlap each other. So Jay Sparrow regarding alternatives for the iPad 10 says, either iPad Air 4 or 2018 iPad Pro refurbished, and yes, I agree with this. Both of those are much better iPads. They have panels that are laminated, they have better accessories with the 2nd gen pencil and of course Magic Keyboard support, and with the iPad Pro you also get 120Hz and quad speakers. And Steve Stonewood simply says, Lamau iPad 10 is trash. And yeah, I've got to agree with that. I hate the iPad 10, no one should be buying that. So Jay White says, to be honest, I don't see a point upgrading to the 10th gen iPads when I've already got the 9th generation iPads. And yes, I agree, for those who have iPad 9s, you should not be upgrading to the new base iPads. It's just not worth it, especially for the whole dongle situation, but also the fact the iPad 9's aged incredibly well and it's still an iPad I highly recommend. So Jay Edwards says, hopefully the iPad 11 addresses some of the biggest issues with the 10th gen iPads, mainly the price. If they had priced the 10 at $359 or even $399, it would have been a success, and yes, I agree with that. If it had a lower price, I could forgive the shortcomings, and I do think there is a good chance we see low prices with future budget iPads. Because Apple knows the $329 price is the key component to the budget iPad success, and so much like Apple needs a $1,000 MacBook in the range, I'm sure future base iPads are eventually going to come down in price and fill that $329 spot. And yeah, the iPad 10 in many ways is similar to the Retina MacBook Air, because initially that was way too expensive for a MacBook Air, but of course with each generation it came down in price. Eventually we got to the M1 models at $1,000, giving us amazing value for the price, and so there is a good chance that happens with future base iPads. Anyways, tell me your thoughts regarding this report in the comments. Anyways, thank you for watching guys, make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumours, and on that note, I'll see you guys in the next one.